the Little Cedar Spirit Tree. The Ojibwe call it Manidu Jizikans. The tree is an ancient Thuja occidentalis, or white cedar. It grows on the north shore of Lake Superior and is likely over 500 years old. This tree is held sacred to the Ojibwe. To many, it represents survival through the hardships of life. Despite its old age, it's less than 4 meters or 13 feet high. Hi everyone, Nigel Saunders here. Welcome back to part 2 of my witch's tree and my little cedar spirit tree. In part 1 of this video, I got the witch's tree planted on top of a limestone rock, and now it's the little cedar spirit tree's turn. The witch's tree turned out quite nice. It's planted over top of the rock, and I've got a lot of soil and moss covering up the roots. So it'll be, a year or 2 or maybe 3 before I slowly start uncovering the roots to just have like a root over rock type planting. I'll start today's video by pruning up the little cedar spirit tree. It's been left to grow for a couple of years, and it's got lots of strength in it for repotting and pruning back. The witch's tree was growing in this mica pot, and it's the perfect size for the stone and the little cedar spirit tree to grow in. So I'll be using this pot today. I'll be pruning this cedar tree, which is a Thuja occidentalis. I'll be pruning it back as tightly as I can get it, minimizing the foliage, and then over the next couple of years I'll let it grow again. The goal is to get a really weather-beaten tree with all kinds of twisty veins growing up the trunk, and just a tree that looks like it's survived everything nature can throw at it. All right, here I go with the pruning. I want to get, again, that cathedral type top where I've got spires coming up and then all the tight foliage coming off of those. So I don't want these loose, droopy branches. So I'll start with that one. I'll prune it back as far as I can, keeping some nice healthy green foliage at the tips. So I'll take it back to here. Now again, after I get it all pruned back, I may prune it back even tighter once I can kind of see the overall design of the tree. So here's my one upright trunk, and I don't want this to be too tall. So I can replace my apex here. I've got a thick apex coming up here, and I've got a thinner branch behind, so I'll prune the thicker apex off right here, like that. And then I'm going to prune the new apex down a bit. I don't want it so tall. I'll prune it back to here. Oh, I got a branch out the side here that needs to be pruned back. So we'll go back to here. Now I've got a major trunk line coming up the back here. And again, I want this to go vertical eventually, so I've got a good branch here that I could replace this entire apex with. So I'll do that. I'm going to leave a bit of the old branch for deadwood, and I think I'll have to get my branch pruners here. It's a fairly thick branch, so I'll leave some for carving to there. So here I go, just like that. The tree is getting more compact. It's looking much better. So I've got this kind of drooping branch here. It kind of comes off of this trunk and droops down. I think I'll just reduce it back rather than cutting it off, because it's kind of cool. Sort of a neat feature on the tree. Now I've got to do something out here. I've got this branch is coming out and it's getting quite long. I don't want that. I want to keep all my branches short and just have those, vertical trunks dominate the design. So I've got to see what's going on out at this branch tip here. There's a lot going on. I just got to sort it out. So I'm going to prune back to here at least, taking that tip off. And I'll prune these branches back, kind of, you know, at least in half. These are just shoots that are developing along this branch. And there's a vertical part of the branch. I can take that right off. It's, you know, it doesn't flow with the design or anything. Or should I maybe just reduce it? I'll reduce it for now. Make the final decision on it later. There's a branch growing back in towards the center of the tree. I'll take that off. And then I can reduce this one back a little further. Take the tip off this one. So that's got that branch a lot more compact now. I better take that vertical section off there too. Yeah, that's a lot more compact. Now I got a vertical branch back here that's part of my 3 trunk lines coming up. So it's the smallest one and needs further developing. So I'll definitely, you know, let this grow with more vigor than any of the other ones, so it can kind of catch up. So instead of just being a young shoot like that, it'll sort of mature and become my 3 major upright branches. So I will manage the branches coming off of it. Take that back to there. This one up here I could take back even further to here. And I'll leave the apex grow. Take the tip off there and the tip off here. So I've kind of got that branch so it can grow quite tall, and then I'll reduce it back in future. You know, maybe one of these branches down lower will become the new leader as that branch thickens up. And I think we're getting pretty close to having the tree pruned up, at least scissor pruned, and then I can go in and pinch a lot of this growth. All right, so there's kind of the front of the tree at the present moment. I may change it. It may... There's a lot of gnarly stuff happening on the trunk here. I think that this tree was in a pathway, and I think it had been stepped on many times. So the tree would actually bend over. And, you know, since then it's grown and thickened up and become a more solid trunk, but you can see all the scars on it. It's had a tough life, this tree, which is good. It's got lots of character on the trunk. And that'll, all this taper and all that'll improve as the tree thickens up in the years ahead. I kind of like this view right here as the front of the tree. Kind of got that central branch going up, and this is sort of supporting the tree back here. Kind of makes a nice backdrop to that center gnarly looking trunk. So I'm going to mark that as the front of the tree. I will rotate it around and you can have a look at it from all angles. All right, I'll rotate the tree around now. So this is kind of the front that I had picked. That's kind of the previous front. Coming around to the right side. The back of the tree, which is quite a nice view too. And to the left side. And then back to maybe the new front and back to the old front. Not much difference there, just a slight angle change. The last step for the pruning is just to pinch the branch tips. So I grab it with my thumb and just pinch the branch tip to a rounded profile. Makes it a little more compact and miniature looking, so it's not so loose and kind of, you know, ragged looking. Just tidies it up a bit. And it also, you know, helps promote ramification in the branches. So I'll just go around the tree and finish that operation up, and then we'll get the tree out of the pot. I've got the little Cedar Spirit Tree pruned back and pinched back. That's about as compact as I can safely get it. So that's looking pretty good. I'm going to remove the moss here and then get the tree out of the pot. I might be able to use this moss on top of the planting. so it's a good idea to save it. It peels off quite easily. Okay, so there's the moss off. Now I'll pull the tree out of the pot. So here I go. Ah, yeah. That's an interesting pot. It's a plastic pot. It had one of those fake bonsai trees growing in it. So I took all the, it had cement in the bottom and all this fake gravel glued on. Or not fake gravel, but it had all this gravel glued on and this plastic tree. But the pot's quite neat. I don't know what it's supposed to be. It's got all these weird designs on it. I kind of like it, actually. Make a nice clay pot if someone were to make one like that. It's very interesting. So there's the tree out of the pot now. I've got to comb out the roots, take my front of my tree away here, and get out the root rake. Here's a look at the root system. It looks really, really dense. You can see underneath, and so the tree's growing really well. It'll have lots of vigor for recovering after this operation, and it'll look mighty fine growing on top of that rock, I think. It'll be nice to have a little miniature version of a famous tree. So yeah, here comes all the breaking of the roots. We're getting get them all untangled and washed and ready to put them over the top of the rock. Now you can see this root system's really fibrous, so I won't have all these fibrous roots going over the rock eventually, because it would just hide the rock completely. So eventually I'll have to select the roots I want to keep and prune away the others to kind of create, the right amount of roots that are going over top of the rock. So you can see at the base of this tree, it is starting to get a bit of flare. It never had that originally. It was sort of a very strange looking trunk. It had this big bulge here. But as I say, I think as this tree matures and thickens up, I think it'll get a nice flare at the base here and some nice, a nice natural looking trunk. It won't have massive taper or anything, but it'll look quite nice. It'll match the little Cedar Spirit Tree quite nicely, I think. So quite a dense root base. I'm going to start combing from the bottom now, and we'll get those drainage screens out, and there's another piece of screen out. So now I can comb from the center of the root base, raking outwards in a radial pattern. If your root base gets too fine, it's hard to rake out in future, and all the roots will grow thicker and thicker, and they'll all start to fuse together, and instead of individual roots, you'll get a plate of roots at the base of your tree. And if that's what you want, it can look quite good, but if you want individual roots, then you've kind of got to keep them combed out. Select the roots you want. All right, I'll go wash the tree now. So I think I'll want the tree sitting on one of these ledges. I was looking at the little Cedar Spirit Tree in nature, and it's kind of like almost at the top of the rock. So probably this ledge here would look the best. Kind of sitting right here. So I'll try the tree out on this ledge. So sort of maybe like that. I kind of like that. It's kind of leaning out and then goes vertical. That's not bad. That may be a good way to plant this tree. If I had it more twisted. No, it definitely looks best like that, I think. All right, I'm going to plant the rock into the pot now. Something like that, I think. So I'll get some soil in the bottom of the pot, some screens and soil, and we'll get a layer of bonsai soil and position the rock. All right, so now I'm going to position the rock in the pot, and yeah, it looks like there's some cut marks on this side of the rock, so that'll definitely have to be the back. So I'm going to position the rock something like this, and I got to think how high I want it. I do want the roots, they're not really long, so it's probably a good height now, and then later on, you know, in a couple of years I can raise it up higher, find a better pot, and, you know, do the final composition. So I think for now, that's a pretty good height in the pot. Just getting this to sit better. I want this area flat, so the tree sits on top of there. That's pretty level there. Add more soil into the pot here. That's pretty good. It's level this way and from the front. So that's my planting platform. All right. I'm going to wet the rock before I position the tree on it. I'll wet the rock down now and just kind of settle that soil into the pot. It looks good and solid. The roots of water too. All right. I'm ready to position the tree on the rock. Yeah, I think I like that as the front. I'm going to make that the front. So I'll make sure I've got my roots reduced on the bottom quite tightly. I could maybe take a few more off just to get the tree to sit as flat as I can on top of the rock. That's about as far down as I can get it. All right, let's get this on the rock now. So it fits in quite nicely there, and that's got a good front to the tree. Could maybe rotate it just a bit to about there. Now I'll arrange all the roots, get my root rake, and I'll just arrange them all draping over the rock. And then, as I say later on, I can go and select the roots that I want to keep and which ones I want to get rid of. Because I don't want it looking like this in the end. I want just, you know, a few select roots to feed the tree. And then down lower in the soil, I'll have that fine root mass. Now, if this tree ever starts to grow really large in the future, what you can do is, if it starts swallowing up this first rock, you can put another limestone rock underneath it to kind of change the scale of the planting. So, and that's looking good. I think I can start to add the soil now. This root's a little high here. There's a better root below, so I'll get rid of that one. Like that. The rest aren't bad. That's looking much better. All right, I'm going to start adding the soil now. So again, I'll push the roots against the rock, add the soil in so it holds them in place. Like that. Getting soil in all the cracks and crevices. It'll be exciting to see this in, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years from now. I think it'll eventually make a really nice bonsai. And a very expressive one. Just like the original tree itself, it'll represent the hardships in life and overcoming the struggles of life and the hardships, and a tree that can inspire you in your own life. So to hold the tree down firmly, so I'm not using my hand, I'm going to put a rock right on top. So I'll get that rock now. I'll use this rock here. That should do the job. And I'll position it right like that. That's going to keep those roots in the shade and cool underneath the rock. And it'll hold the tree so it's not so wobbly. And now I'll continue to build up the soil all around the tree here. Getting those roots covered. Everything is looking good. I think my tree's on a bit of an angle. I'm going to try and straighten that out. So I've got to work soil into the root system here. At the base of the tree. So I'll have to put some more rocks around the base of the tree to hold it all in place. So I've got a rock in here. I'm just positioning some of the other ones along the edges, and that way I can build my soil up a bit more. Put that one right up there. Maybe, I don't know. Yeah, that might work. Right there. I think that's going to do it. Just start putting a bit more soil around here. I'll place my moss along here too. And that'll help stop the soil washing away in the heavy rains. Let's have a look at the planting now. And you kind of have to use your imagination because you can't see the rock that the tree is planted on. It's all kind of hidden for now. But yeah, there's kind of the front of the tree. I think it'll look really good someday. This is an intermediate step. The soil's piled high with all kinds of rocks holding the tree in place. So I think, you know, it's just going to take time, a year or two of growing, and then we'll see what's happening with the tree. My little cedar spirit tree is now planted. It's a big step forward for a little tree. I'll put the tree back on the bench, and now it's time for today's update. Today's update is my old growth style cedar, the one that I collected, and you know, the top had been cut off by someone, and I'm growing it, so it's kind of in between a collected tree and growing a bonsai. And it's getting quite shaggy. You can see some of these branches drooping down. And again, I want to grow this sort of in the cathedral style. Seems to be a favorite style of mine. So we'll get it in the greenhouse and get it pruned up. All right, let's begin the pruning now. So the first one I want to get off is this really long weeping branch. The apex of this upright kind of trunk is over here, so I don't want this big long weeping branch here. So it's quite thick. I've got some better branches below, so I'm going to take it right off. So here I go. Like that. I do want to grow this tree taller, but I want to keep all my branching compact so it's usable in the future. I don't want it to grow really long and wild. Otherwise you can never, well, it's harder to get the branch back compact. So it's best to manage the branches as you develop the tree. So I think the front of the tree is somewhere about here. It's not a bad view of it. I got another hanging branch here. I can prune that back. A lot of scars to heal up on the back of this tree, but you know, it'll slowly smooth out and heal all these large branches I had to take off. Down low, and the root system will be getting better. I think it'll be a nice tree in the far future. So there's kind of the front. Hopefully it's looking all right. My big tall old growth cedar is pruned up now and ready to grow for another season. And again, I'll probably just let it grow for the whole summer. And it'll heal all these wounds. There's a big branch taken off there, a giant one here, and there's a big chunk here where it was probably hit with an ATV or something. The top was cut off long ago.
You can see the original trunk line here. That wasn't by me, it was just to clear the pathway where it was collected. And it's starting to look like an old growth cedar. I did a lot of root work to it last time I planted it, and I think you're going to see a really nice radial root base on this tree once I kind of expose it. Yeah, so yeah, it's coming along as a bonsai. I think it'll be a magnificent tree far in the future. Work has begun again on the greenhouse over here. Did a lot of leveling of the soil. My daughter helped me out, and so we're building that up so it's kind of a flat level floor to the greenhouse. And I'll be digging my post holes soon for the back knee wall. And it'll slowly be coming together. Hi Giselle, how are you? Hello. Say hi. Say hi to YouTube. Bye Giselle. Yeah, so I think my next task might be to take out that beautiful walnut tree. I'll have to do that soon. Here comes the silky chicken. The rooster, I mean. Hello. He likes Giselle. That's his girlfriend. He's going over to visit her. Right, Giselle? They perch together at night. It's kind of cute. That's all the work I'll be doing today. Lots of cedar work. I'm Nigel Saunders. Thanks for joining me in the Bonsai Zone.